Hey guys, so I just wanted to give a brief artist statement for this painting. I think it's important to share what I think about the painting and the process of the painting and just my overall feelings and experience with the painting. So this painting was commissioned to me from my sister. We have the same dad, but different moms. My dad was like a bit of a rolling stone, if you know what I mean. So her mom recently passed away and she asked me to paint a portrait of her and her mom. I'll insert a photo here of the picture that she sent me. So this picture, I'm assuming, is one of the few pictures, recent photos of her and her mom that she had. She really wanted me to paint this particular picture of her and her mom together. So I used a few different apps to try to get the photo to look not so pixelated. And no matter what I would do to the photo, it was just like impossible to kind of restore the photo or even just make it more clear. It helped a little bit. Even after all of the apps that I used, I ended up having to like wing most of this painting because I couldn't really see the details and everything. So I just ended up doing as best as I could, but I wish the photo was more clear. But anyways, so with this painting, that was one of the issues that I had with it. That was definitely struggle, was trying to paint something without being able to see the detail. It's like you can't paint what you can't see, you know. So another problem that I had with this painting was I typically, if you're familiar with my work, I typically paint relatively small, like 4x4s, 8x10s. I don't usually paint bigger than that. The biggest commission that I had before this one was like 18x24, so that's still pretty small. So something this size, I honestly wasn't prepared for it. Like, I don't even have paintbrushes large enough to paint something this big. Like, I noticed when I was painting the keyboard, I had to use like a size 6 paintbrush, when if I just had bigger brushes, I could probably bust out the keys within like a few strokes. But because I had only small brushes, I had to just like keep going back and forth over the same section for like an hour, just trying to render the painting. And if I had bigger brushes, then I could just do it much faster. There was that, and then also learning how to use gold leaf, which is something that I'm not really that familiar with. I've used it in the past, but only like in a very small amount. So I ended up like running out of supplies like a lot with this painting, because I didn't really realize how much supplies were needed for something of this size. So I had to keep getting more things, and this painting took me so long to do. Like, it took me months. And I think honestly the work itself wouldn't have taken as long if I had just been more confident within myself. I just constantly kept talking myself out of completing this painting. There was even times when I would just tell myself that I literally cannot complete this painting. I'm just gonna give my sister her money back, and I'm not even gonna do this. Like, I just can't do this, forget this. I had to just keep pushing myself to complete this painting, no matter how much like it was difficult for me. I think the biggest thing with this painting was the fact that I could not really see anything. So like, I just kind of had to use my imagination for a lot of it, and I definitely struggled with that. I was trying to figure out how I wanted to approach this painting, because the reference photo that I had, I knew that I was going to obviously incorporate their portraits and their outfits, but I didn't necessarily want to incorporate the background of the picture. I thought it was just I thought it wouldn't look that great for something this big. I thought it would just, like, at least for my skills, the way that I would execute it, I think that it would not look so great if I just copied the picture exactly as I saw it. So I was thinking, what is something that I can paint in the background? What's something that I can incorporate that is relevant? And usually I'll ask clients, like, if they want a portrait of someone, that I'll ask them to tell me a bit about that person, so I can get a better idea of like what I can incorporate that will match their personality. So I didn't ask my sister this. I pretty much just assumed, because I remember my sister saying that her mom was like always really into music. She was always dancing. She said even when she was in her hospital bed, she was dancing in the bed. So I was just thinking, I think that if I incorporate music instruments into the background, I would enjoy painting that, and it would add some more like flavor to the painting and more character to the painting, and it would definitely match her mom's personality. So I decided to paint some instruments. I chose more so like classical and like jazz African style instruments for this. The trumpet I ended up getting rid of because I could not execute it. Also, I had a tambourine on the bottom where her mom's foot is. The reason why I put the tambourine like that is because the reference photo, the foot was cut off, and I was just thinking, like, I don't really want to paint. I don't want to take pictures of my foot in that angle, because my feet, number one, are gross, and number two, my feet don't look like her mom's feet. Like, my toes are long, so I didn't want to use my foot as a reference to kind of replace her mom's missing toes. So I was just like, let me just cover it with something. So I decided to put a tambourine down there, but I could not execute the tambourine. It just looked really, really bad. After I painted the bouquet of roses in my sister's hand, I decided to just paint some more roses by her mom's foot, to kind of just cover up the fact that I couldn't paint her toes. Another thing that was really difficult for me in this painting was both of their dresses. Their dresses were so hard for me to just make look realistic. I kept layering the paint and I couldn't figure out how to make it look more realistic, but I did as best as I could. So that's my cons of this painting. Now I'm gonna say the pros, because leave the best for last, you know? So one thing that I've noticed with this painting, I think honestly, I've grown a lot just by completing this painting. Just the simple fact that I completed this painting, that is huge for me, because I nearly didn't finish it. I nearly talked myself out of this painting so many times, and the fact that I pushed myself to finish it, even though I really didn't want to, that's an achievement right there. Secondly, now I feel a lot more comfortable painting a lot bigger. Since I typically paint pretty small, I feel like confident to paint. Definitely not this big, but like after this painting, I can definitely say I feel a lot more confident to paint like 3 or 4 times the size of paintings that I typically paint. So it gave me a lot of confidence to paint bigger. And that's great, because before I was just like so afraid of it that I couldn't execute it. I think that this painting also taught me a lot about composition, more than I knew before. This painting also taught me how to use gold leaf properly. This painting also gave me a whole new art supply to work with, which is the transparent 3D gel. I wouldn't have even bought that stuff until I started working on this painting. I mean, maybe I would have in the future, but I now got to say that I got to use transparent 3D gel under the gold leaf, and that was really interesting what it did. I think that I got a lot more comfortable with color mixing after working on this painting. I also feel more comfortable pulling long lines with paint because the instruments and figuring out how to paint straight lines, it's definitely not perfect, but I think that I'm just more confident overall with doing it since I got to practice it. There was a lot about this painting that inspires me to make another painting sort of similar, especially utilizing the gold leaf technique that I did and the transparent 3D gel technique. That was like a really awesome experience for me to like figure out how to do. So I definitely want to incorporate that in future paintings for sure. I'm really grateful that I had the opportunity to complete this painting for my sister, and I'm really proud of myself for finishing this. Like the struggle that I went through, and it was all in my head. I mean, every single painting I do this to myself, I talk myself out of it, but especially commissions because it's for someone else, so you don't know what they're gonna think, and it's like you get in your mind. With original art, it's like, well, if I like it, I like it, then you know, whatever. Hopefully somebody buys it. But with commissions, you know, you have to please someone else, and you also have to hurry up. So it's like stressful, but yeah, so I'm really glad I got to finish this painting. I just wanted to showcase this painting to you guys. I think this is definitely a pretty important painting for my portfolio because I got to showcase my skills in a way that I probably wouldn't have done on my own. You know, like if I wasn't commissioned to do something so large, I probably wouldn't. I definitely would have stayed in my little comfort zone of little 4x4s, little 8x10s, and I would have just kept it at that. More than likely, I would not paint something this big. So I definitely am proud of myself for taking this on. So I definitely should have said no. No, I'm just kidding. I'm glad I said yes to this. But yeah, so I'm just gonna show you guys now the rest of the painting, and I hope you guys enjoy. Thank you for watching too. Don't leave, keep watching. Okay. So right now I'm kind of torn if I should I'm torn if I should like get rid of that trumpet on the top. It's like not really recommended to cover oil paint with gold leaf, but I kind of just want to cover it. I feel like the trumpet on the top takes away from the painting because I had a hard time executing the trumpet. Like the trumpet looks like shit. So I don't really know how I feel about it. I feel like my instinct tells me to cover it because, you know, there's so many instruments on this already and like less is more. But I'm second guessing it because number one, I spent a lot of time on it. Number two, there's a risk. I'm not really sure what the risk is. I just know that it's not recommended to cover oil paint with gold leaf. So I still need to paint on the bottom over here. I need to like sort of adjust that right there, make it more straight. And I need to add some leaves to those roses down there. And then I may or may not cover that trumpet. To cover or not to cover? That is the question. gotta set the mood. I got some patchouli. All right. Okay, so right now I'm just going to apply some linseed oil lightly over the part that has the oil paint, because I have to go over and shellac the gold leaf again because I added more gold leaf to sort of touch up little specks of stuff that was missing. So I'm using this shellac. So the shellac is sort of tinted. It's specifically made for gold leaf. I did like sort of a patch test to see what the clear would look like in comparison to the tinted brown one. And the brown one looked better. So I'm gonna go ahead and finish it off with the brown. So I just have some linseed oil in here. I'm just gonna use like a fluffy brush to apply some linseed oil. So I'm just applying the oil on the edges for where I'm going to end up varnishing the gold leaf, and then anything that's dark, like dark in color, so I could take photos of it. The photos come out better when I put the oil on a dark spot. Okay, so now I'm gonna go ahead and do this shellac varnish on the gold leaf. It smells pretty much like rubbing alcohol. So this step is actually really important because I didn't use like 20+ karat gold leaf. I use imitation gold leaf. So over time, this imitation gold leaf will begin to tarnish. It will turn sort of bronzy, like it'll start to look more antique, which can be a good thing or a bad thing. But I've noticed, even while working on this painting, I've noticed the gold, like the vibrancy of the gold starts to fade away, even while I was working on it. So it's important to varnish at least the gold leaf. I was told that I should not use retouch varnish on the entire painting. I was told to use traditional varnish on the whole thing, but what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna varnish this painting, just varnish the gold leaf with the proper varnish, and then I'm gonna let that dry. Once the painting is pretty dry, I'm then gonna use retouch varnish on only the parts that have oil paint, because that will allow it to still breathe. And since I'm gonna ship it before 6 months to a year. So I'm gonna just finish applying this, and then yeah, so I'm just gonna let it sit, and then I'll come back and talk to you guys more about this painting. Okay, yeah, so right now I'm just going to allow for this to dry for about like 20 minutes, 15, 20 minutes. Then I'm going to do one more coat and I can take some pictures. Hopefully the sun doesn't go away before that happens because I don't really have much light, so okay. Alright, so one more thing I need to say, I like put my easel in front of the painting because I was going to work on something else. But basically what I'm doing, I don't think I said that when this gets to the States, it's going to be shipped onto the wood stretchers and it's going to be folded over here. So there won't be any black or any of this showing. It's just going to be like stretched over, like bent here. Does that make sense? It's going to just be like here, you know? So I'm sure I'll get like pictures and stuff of it when that happens, but just so you guys know in advance that wasn't my vision. That black border is not supposed to be there. That would be where the frame would end up being whenever she gets it and she is able to frame it. Okay.